Welcome back to the channel, coin enthusiasts and treasure hunters alike. Today we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing and surprisingly valuable coins in American numismatic history, the 1973 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin that on the surface appears to be just another penny in your pocket change but could actually be worth up to $24,000 or more due to a fascinating series of rare errors and unique minting anomalies that elevate its value astronomically for collectors. And this video is going to explain in detail how such a small coin can possess such a massive price tag, what to look for in your own change, and how these mistakes happened. So buckle up and let's journey together through the intricate world of mint errors, production flaws, and the sheer unpredictability of the minting process that can turn ordinary currency into extraordinary collectibles. Starting first with some background on the 1973 D. Lincoln penny, which was minted in Denver, as denoted by the D. mintmark below the date. This coin was struck in huge quantities, over 3.5 billion to be exact, which makes the notion that one could be worth thousands all the more fascinating because it illustrates how even among billions, something rare can occur, and indeed, in the massive production process of coins, errors are statistically bound to happen, but only a very few manage to slip past quality control and into circulation. And these are the coins that collectors chase after, the modern-day buried treasures, if you will. And in the case of the 1973 D penny, the specific errors that have been found and sold for big money include things like doubled dies, off-center strikes, repunched mintmarks, planchet errors, die breaks, and in some incredibly rare cases, transitional errors or coins struck on foreign or leftover planchets from previous or experimental minting runs. And it's these peculiarities that we're going to explore in incredible depth, starting with the doubled die, which refers to a kind of error where the design elements of the coin, like Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the date, or the motto, "In God We Trust," appear to be doubled or shadowed because the die itself was impressed more than once in slightly misaligned positions during the hubbing process at the mint. And although the most famous doubled die in American history is probably the 1955 penny, there are rare doubled die varieties of the 1973 D cent as well, and these are immensely valuable depending on the severity and visibility of the doubling, particularly if it occurs on prominent text or features of the coin. And then there are repunched mintmarks, another variety of error that comes from a time before mintmarks were applied digitally, when they were still punched into the die by hand, and sometimes the mint worker would misplace the punch slightly and then correct it, resulting in a visible doubling or overlapping of the DE mintmark. And these repunched mintmarks, or RPMs as collectors call them, are a highly desirable category of mint error, and in the 1973 D penny, several known RPMs exist, and their rarity and collectability increase significantly if the RPM is strong, clean, and easily visible without magnification. Then we move into the fascinating world of off-center strikes, which occur when the coin blank or planchet is not properly centered in the coining press and results in a coin where part of the design is missing, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, and whether the date remains visible, such coins can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, with those showing between 50% to 90% off-center while still retaining the full date and mintmark being the most desirable. And then there are planchet errors, which include coins struck on underweight or overweight blanks, coins struck on foreign blanks, and coins struck on improper metal compositions. And while most 1973 D pennies are made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, there are reports and rumors of transitional errors or off-metal strikes, such as a 1973 D penny being struck on a planchet intended for a dime, or struck on an aluminum or bronze-clad planchet. And although such occurrences are exceptionally rare, when they happen, they are numismatic gold mines because they defy the standard expectations of U.S. mint output and signal either an experimental issue or a leftover planchet from a different minting year. And these kinds of errors have the potential to push a coin's value into the tens of thousands of dollars, and in one such case, a 1973 D penny was reported to have been struck on an aluminum planchet, similar to the experimental aluminum cents tested in 1974 but never officially released. And while the authenticity of such coins is often debated due to their rarity and the likelihood of clandestine mint escape, The potential value is still astronomical. Then we have die breaks and cuds, which happen when the die begins to fracture or break apart, leading to raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin where the broken die fails to strike properly, and these die breaks can range from minor cracks to dramatic chunks missing from the design, known as cuds, which are particularly collectible when they affect the date, lettering, or key parts of the image. And then there are coins with brockages, where a previously struck coin sticks to the die and strikes the next planchet, leaving a mirror image or distorted imprint, another error that's not commonly associated with pennies but has been seen occasionally and when found is highly valuable. And all these types of errors can happen independently, but sometimes more than one appears on a single coin, creating what collectors call a multi-error coin, which is essentially the jackpot scenario, where a penny might have a doubled die, a repunched mintmark, and an off-center strike all in one, which significantly multiplies its value and rarity. And it's worth noting that value is not just about rarity but also about condition, so if a 1973 D-era penny is found in uncirculated or mint state condition, graded by agencies like PCGS or NGC as MS63, MS65, or higher, its value will be considerably more than the same error found on a heavily circulated and worn coin, and that's why coin preservation is so important. And for those lucky enough to find a potentially valuable error in their pocket change or coin jar, the next step should always be to store it in a protective holder and get it authenticated and graded by a reputable third-party grading service. And while the odds of finding one of these extraordinary 1973 D-era cents may be slim, they are far from zero, and because so many people overlook their change or assume all pennies are equal, there are still hidden gems waiting to be discovered by someone with a careful eye, a good magnifier, and the knowledge of what to look for. And even among collectors, some of these varieties remain underreported or unknown, which means the true extent of valuable 1973 D-era pennies may not yet be fully realized, and that's part of what makes numismatics so exciting. The constant possibility that the next great discovery could be sitting in your coin jar right now. So whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just curious about what makes coins like the 1973 D penny so special, the key is education, attention to detail, and persistence, because the Denver Mint in 1973, like all high-production facilities, was focused on volume, and even with stringent quality control, a few flawed coins inevitably escaped, and with over 3 billion coins struck, even a 1 in a million error means several could still exist, undiscovered, tucked away in collections, drawers, or jars across the country. And this is why collectors continuously study auction records, variety databases, and grading service reports to track known errors and evaluate potential new ones. And as technology advances, the tools used to detect and authenticate these coins get better, making it possible to re-examine old coins with new eyes and uncover details previously missed. And for those who are wondering about real-world examples of valuable 1973 D cents, there have been auction listings and sales where rare errors commanded 4 or even 5-figure prices, especially for well-preserved coins with dramatic mint errors that are both visually striking and technically rare. And as more collectors enter the market, and as the demand for unique, one-of-a-kind coins increases, so too does the value of these error coins, and we've seen a surge in interest over the past decade as more people recognize the investment potential in coins once considered common, and the 1973 D Lincoln cent is a perfect case study in how even a seemingly mundane coin can become a valuable collector's item due to the quirks and imperfections of the minting process. And while many people may toss aside pennies or consider them obsolete, those who take the time to inspect them closely can be richly rewarded. So next time you receive a handful of change or sort through an old coin collection, remember that buried treasure doesn't always come in gold and silver. Sometimes it's a humble copper cent with a hidden secret. And now you know what secrets to look for. So keep hunting, stay curious, and who knows? You might just find a 1973 D penny worth $24,000 hiding in plain sight. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into rare coins and valuable collectibles that could be sitting right under your nose. And if you thought the story of the 1973 D Lincoln penny was unbelievable, then get ready, because today we're diving into another fascinating discovery in the world of numismatics, and this time we're shifting our focus to the 1973 Philadelphia minted Lincoln 1-cent coin. No mint mark beneath the date, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's ordinary. Because among the hundreds of millions of these pennies struck in that year, a very select few have sold for jaw-dropping amounts, some even reaching $26,000 or more at auction, and it's all thanks to a complex mix of rare mint errors, unusual die varieties, and historical anomalies that have made certain examples of this coin incredibly desirable to collectors around the world. And as we explore what makes the 1973 no mint mark penny so special, you'll learn exactly which signs to look for in your pocket change that could mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one that could change your life. So let's begin with the basics. Over 1.1 billion 1973 pennies were minted at the Philadelphia Mint, and unlike their Denver counterparts, they carry no mint mark. And while the vast majority of these coins were struck correctly and are worth only face value, the real story lies in the rare instances when the minting process didn't go as planned. And just like with the 1973 D variant, the Philadelphia pennies were susceptible to several classes of mint errors and variations, including doubled dies, repunched elements, die breaks, planchet anomalies, and more, and it is the most dramatic and rare of these mistakes that can send the value of one such penny skyrocketing to tens of thousands of dollars. So starting first with the double die obverse, one of the most sought-after varieties in all of numismatics. This error occurs during the die creation process when the design is impressed more than once into the die in misaligned positions, causing certain parts of the coin's design to appear doubled. When struck onto a planchet, and for the 1973 penny, there are confirmed double die obverse varieties where the doubling is clearly visible on inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1973, itself. And while some varieties exhibit light doubling that requires magnification, others are strong enough to be seen with the naked eye, and those are the ones that grab the attention of collectors and drive prices upward fast. And if such a coin is discovered in high mint state condition, say MS65 or better, then the value can jump exponentially. And that's not all. Another layer of potential value comes from coins that were struck off-center, with some 1973 cents exhibiting dramatic off-center strikes that can leave up to half of the design missing, creating a fascinating and desirable visual effect that makes them highly collectible. Especially when the date remains fully intact, and while minor off-center errors might fetch only modest premiums, those that are 50% or more off with visible dates can bring in hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And then we have the ever-popular category of die breaks and cuds, which occur when the die used to strike the coins becomes cracked or chipped, resulting in extra metal being struck onto the coin's surface, forming raised lines, blobs, or entire sections of missing design that appear as if they're oozing from the coin. And for 1973 cents, there are known examples with major die breaks, especially along the rim or near Lincoln's head. And these kinds of dramatic errors are not only interesting to look at but also historically valuable as they document the breakdown of minting equipment over time. And then there are planchet errors, where the coin is struck on a planchet that was never intended for that denomination, and while extremely rare, there have been examples of 1973 Lincoln cents struck on dime planchets. Foreign coin planchets, or planchets with incorrect metal compositions, and this category of error is what's believed to have driven the value of certain 1973 pennies into the $26,000 range and beyond, because these coins represent a true breach of standard minting protocol, and their existence poses fascinating questions about how and why they were struck that way, whether by accident, oversight, or as part of an undocumented experimental run. And one particularly intriguing case is that of a 1973 Lincoln cent struck on an aluminum planchet, possibly a leftover from 1974 when the U.S. Mint experimented with aluminum cents in response to rising copper prices. And although these aluminum cents were never officially released to the public and most were destroyed, a handful reportedly escaped. And if a 1973 dated penny was somehow struck on one of these lightweight silvery planchets, it would represent a true numismatic unicorn. An impossibly rare coin with a speculative value that could easily surpass $26,000 in the right auction, and when these types of errors are verified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, they instantly become headline worthy and attract serious bidding wars among high end collectors. And then we also consider the importance of condition, or grade, because as with any collectible, the better preserved the item is, the more valuable it becomes. And if a 1973 penny features one of these rare errors but also grades at MS67 or higher, its market value could double or triple instantly, because ultra-high grade coins are significantly rarer. Due to how easily copper coins can become worn, scratched, or corroded in circulation, and then you have the influence of provenance and certification. If the coin has a known sales history, is listed in popular coin error guides, or has been featured in coin collecting publications, its notoriety adds value, and so every tiny aspect of a coin's journey, from how it was made, to how it survived, to how it was discovered, can contribute to its ultimate market worth. And while $26,000 might sound extreme for a penny, the auction records don't lie, and coins like these have been known to trade hands for astronomical sums due to their uniqueness and rarity. And one of the exciting things about 1973 cents is that the known varieties may only scratch the surface of what's actually out there, since many coins haven't yet been discovered, submitted for grading, or studied in detail. And that means there's still an open field of opportunity for coin collectors and curious individuals to find one of these hidden gems. And all it takes is a little patience, a good eye, and the willingness to learn about the characteristics that define these rare coins. And whether you're checking rolls of pennies from the bank, sorting through a family coin jar, or browsing old coin collections, the chance to stumble upon a 1973 Lincoln cent worth $26,000 or more is a thrilling possibility. And the fact that these coins can still be found in circulation makes the hunt all the more exciting, because, unlike gold coins or ancient artifacts, these modern rarities are right here among us, part of everyday currency, hiding in plain sight. And for those wondering what the next steps are if you think you've found something special, it's crucial to preserve the coin immediately, avoid cleaning it, store it in a non-PVC holder, and contact a reputable grading service or numismatic expert for verification. Because proper authentication and grading not only confirms its identity but also provides it with the documentation necessary to bring top dollar at auction. And as we continue to see growth in the collector market, especially among younger and tech-savvy generations who are using apps and online databases to identify coin varieties, the awareness and demand for rare coins like the 1973 Lincoln cent will only continue to increase, and that means higher values, more competition, and greater rewards for those who take the time to learn and look. So as we wrap up our journey through the fascinating story of the 1973 mintmark penny that has sold for as much as $26,000, remember that the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, where even the most mundane object in your pocket might hold incredible value. And whether you're a seasoned numismatist or a curious beginner, there's never been a better time to explore your change, study mint errors, and maybe, just maybe, strike it rich with a penny from 1973. And those of you who are just starting to realize that the humble penny might be the most underestimated piece of currency in your pocket, because today we're turning our attention to another extraordinary coin that proves not all 1-cent pieces are created equal, and that coin is the 1981 Lincoln cent, a seemingly ordinary penny that, under the right circumstances, has fetched as much as $16,000 at auction. And what makes this coin so fascinating is not just its value, but the subtle and intricate minting errors that lead to such high prices, because unlike coins made with precious metals or intentionally limited releases, the 1981 penny was mass-produced, with well over 13 billion of them struck across all mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And with numbers like that, it might seem impossible that any single 1981 penny could be worth more than a few cents at best. But that's the magic of mint errors, transitional compositions, die varieties, and condition. When they all align, the value of one of these pennies can skyrocket into the thousands, and to understand how a copper coin from 1981 can reach a price tag of $16,000, we need to start by exploring the context of its production. Because 1981 was the final full year in which Lincoln cents were made from the traditional alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc before the switch to copper-plated zinc in mid-1982 due to rising copper prices, and while the vast majority of 1981 cents were struck on the correct bronze composition planchets, errors in this transitional period were possible, including instances of planchet mix-ups, where a coin might be struck on the wrong type of blank or even on a leftover or foreign planchet from another denomination or test strike, and any such anomaly dramatically increases a coin's value. But the real driver of the $16,000 valuation in this case comes from incredibly rare doubled die obverse varieties, which are coins where parts of the design are clearly doubled due to a misalignment in the die hubbing process. And while doubled dies are rare in general, a sharply defined one on a late series bronze cent like the 1981 can be particularly valuable, and one well-documented doubled die obverse variety of the 1981 Lincoln cent features doubling visible in inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust, as well as in the date itself, and coins with this type of dramatic doubling are highly sought after by variety collectors and can demand thousands of dollars depending on condition. And if the coin is in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially MS65 or higher, the value climbs even more, and part of what makes these coins so desirable is that they combine both rarity and visibility, meaning that even non-experts can often spot the error with the naked eye, which adds to the appeal. And then there are other types of valuable errors in the 1981 series as well, including off-center strikes, which occur when the coin is not properly centered during striking, leaving part of the design cut off and a blank crescent visible on the planchet, and when these are extreme and the date remains visible, they can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially in high-grade condition, and die breaks and cuts are also present in the 1981 series, where the die cracks or chips during production, leaving raised areas or blobs of metal on the finished coin, and some 1981 cents exhibit spectacular cuts that cover large parts of the design, and these dramatic die failures are not only visually interesting but also rare and collectible. And then there are the coins struck on the wrong planchets, and although rare, there are documented cases of 1981 pennies being struck on dime planchets or even foreign coin blanks, resulting in undersized coins with clipped designs or unusual weights and appearances. And these are extremely desirable to error collectors because they represent mistakes that slip through the rigid quality control systems of the U.S. Mint, and because of the transitional period that surrounded 1981 and 1982, some experts speculate that a few experimental or leftover planchets may have been used mistakenly during the year, adding to the variety of errors that can exist for this date. And while there is no confirmed 1981 cent struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet from 1982, if such a coin were discovered and authenticated, it would almost certainly be worth a fortune, because it would represent a true transitional error, and those are among the most prized finds in all of numismatics. And just like with other valuable Lincoln cents, condition plays a major role in determining value, because most of the 1981 pennies you'll find in circulation today are well-worn, having passed through hands and vending machines for over 40 years, so to find one in pristine condition, particularly with a rare error like a strong doubled die or significant die break, is incredibly rare. And coins graded MS65, MS66, or higher by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC are exponentially more valuable than those in lower grades, and if you ever find what appears to be a mint error on a 1981 cent, the most important thing you can do is avoid cleaning or damaging it, store it safely in a protective holder, and have it evaluated by a professional. Because too often, potentially valuable coins are unknowingly cleaned, scratched, or mishandled, which can destroy their collector value, and part of what fuels the high values of coins like the $16,000 1981 Lincoln cent is the demand from collectors specializing in error coins, die varieties, or transitional period issues, and the rarity of the finest examples, combined with their historical context as the last full year of the bronze cent, adds a premium that will likely continue to grow over time, especially as more collectors enter the hobby and become aware of what to look for. And the amazing thing is that many of These rare coins are still out there, hiding in jars, drawers, and rolls from the bank, because even after decades, these coins continue to circulate unnoticed by the average person, which is why stories of people finding valuable cents in pocket change or old rolls continue to surface every year. And that means there's still a very real chance that you could be the next lucky finder of a $16,000 penny just by paying attention and knowing what to look for, and it all comes back to knowledge, patience, and careful observation, because once you understand the types of errors and anomalies that can increase a coin's value, whether it's a doubled die, an off-metal strike, an off-center error, a major cud, or a planchet anomaly, you'll start to see possibilities every time you handle a coin. And so the 1981 Lincoln cent, often overlooked due to its massive mintage and ordinary appearance, proves once again that in the world of coin collecting, value is not always about rarity in numbers, but rarity in condition, error, and uniqueness. And as collectors and investors continue to explore and document new varieties, especially in high-grade copper cents, it's likely we'll see even more examples of 1981 pennies selling for significant amounts in the future. And whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just starting your journey into the world of coins, never underestimate the power of a single penny to surprise, delight, and enrich your life. So take a moment to look at the next 1981 cent you come across. You never know, it might just be one of the rare few worth $16,000. And get ready to take a deeper dive into another astonishing coin that has made headlines and raised eyebrows in the numismatic world. Not for being shiny, new, or composed of precious metal, but for being yet another everyday penny, this time from the year 1964, that has stunned collectors by reaching a jaw-dropping value of up to $55,000 in certain rare cases. And yes, you heard that right. A single 1964 Lincoln cent, a coin most people would overlook or even discard as pocket change, has been known to sell for more than many new cars. And as with the other incredible pennies we've discussed, this astronomical value doesn't come from age alone, because although the coin is over 60 years old, its true worth lies in a unique combination of minting errors, rare die varieties, and transitional anomalies that have intrigued experts and collectors for decades. And what makes this coin especially fascinating is that 1964 was a year of enormous production for the Lincoln cent, with the U.S. Mint producing over 6.4 billion pennies across both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, which naturally leads people to assume that a coin so common couldn't possibly be valuable. But that's precisely what makes the rare exception so extraordinary. Because when something rare hides within something ordinary, it creates a mystery and excitement that fuels the world of coin collecting. And the 1964 Lincoln cent is one of the best examples of this phenomenon, particularly when we consider the different kinds of known errors and possible minting mistakes that have made certain examples of this coin reach staggering values like $55,000. And to begin understanding how such value is possible, we need to explore the world of doubled dies, because the most well-documented and sought-after errors for the 1964 penny are those with strong doubled die obverse. And these are coins where design elements such as "Liberty in God We Trust" and the date 1964 appear clearly and sharply. Double due to a misalignment in the die creation process where the hub strikes the die more than once in slightly different positions, and collectors go crazy for these types of errors, especially when they are dramatic enough to be visible without magnification. And while minor doubling does exist and can carry some premium, the true showstoppers are those bold, unmistakable double dies that leap off the coin and make even novice collectors stop and take notice. And when such coins are discovered in pristine, uncirculated mint state condition, especially graded MS65, MS66, or higher by reputable grading services such as PCGS or NGC, their rarity and value multiply exponentially. And in fact, one such 1964 penny with a rare and dramatic double die obverse has reportedly sold for over $50,000 in top condition. But the story doesn't stop there, because the 1964 Lincoln cent is also famous for harboring another layer of potential error: transitional planchet mistakes, where a coin might have been accidentally struck on a leftover or incorrect planchet from a different denomination or previous experimental run, and while the standard composition for the 1964 penny was 95% copper and 5% zinc, the possibility that a coin could have been struck on an incorrect planchet, such as one intended for a dime, foreign currency, or even a silver alloy from pre-1965 changes in other denominations, adds tremendous value if authenticated, because these off-metal strikes are incredibly rare and represent significant departures from standard minting procedures. And then there's the infamous issue of striking anomalies, like off-center strikes and broad strikes, both of which are fairly well known among error collectors and can fetch impressive premiums, especially when the error is dramatic and the date remains fully visible, and in the 1964 series. Some coins have been discovered with extreme off-center strikes or with partial collar strikes that resulted in unusual flaring of the rim, and these visual anomalies make such coins instantly stand out and are highly collectible. But perhaps the most mysterious and elusive category of valuable 1964 cents are those that show evidence of being struck from worn or misaligned dies that resulted in highly distorted features, such as die breaks, cuds, and even coins with retained die clash marks, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in place, leaving ghostly imprints of one design on the opposite die, and when coins are later struck with those damaged dies, bizarre and collectible features can appear, and a dramatic die clash involving Lincoln's face or the memorial building on the reverse can command enormous attention from collectors, and although die clashes are often subtle, the most severe and well-preserved examples become highly valuable due to their uniqueness. And another component that contributes to the extreme value of some 1964 pennies is the presence of mintmark anomalies, such as repunched mintmarks, RPMs, which were created in an era when mintmarks were hand-punched into the die and sometimes had to be repositioned, leaving behind traces of the earlier impression, and for Denver minted coins bearing the D under the date, several repunched mintmark varieties are known, and while minor RPMs can carry a modest premium, strong and dramatic RPMs in uncirculated condition can be worth thousands, especially when combined with other errors or high-grade strikes. And one more fascinating and often overlooked possibility in the 1964 series is the notion that some cents may have been struck with mismatched dies, such as a 1964 obverse paired with a reverse intended for a proof coin or a different die variety entirely. And while these hybrid or mule errors are incredibly rare and usually the result of mishandling or oversight at the mint, they represent some of the most valuable and mysterious coins in U.S. numismatics, and even unconfirmed rumors or alleged discoveries of such coins send waves through the collecting community, as everyone races to double-check their own change in coin rolls. And speaking of condition, we cannot overstate how critical this factor is in determining the ultimate value of any rare error coin. Because a 1964 penny with a rare double die error might be worth only a few $100s in circulated condition but could leap to tens of thousands if preserved in gem uncirculated grade with a flawless red copper surface, free from scratches, corrosion, or discoloration, and that's why so many top-end collectors seek out certified and graded examples of error coins, as the third-party verification adds both trust and liquidity to the value of the coin. And it's worth noting that while these $55,000 1964 pennies are extremely rare, they are not isolated incidents. And several varieties have been authenticated and documented by error specialists, meaning the possibility still exists that more are out there waiting to be discovered by someone with a sharp eye and a bit of numismatic knowledge. And considering how many 1964 pennies are still in circulation or stored away in forgotten collections, change jars, or old coin albums, it's entirely within the realm of possibility that one of these incredible rarities could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to find it. So if you come across a 1964 penny, don't dismiss it or toss it into the coin jar without first taking a closer look. Check for any visible doubling in the lettering or date, inspect the mintmark for signs of repunching, look for off-center strikes, unusual die breaks, or signs of being struck on an odd-colored or underweight planchet, and if anything seems out of the ordinary, treat the coin with care, store it in a safe non-PVC flip, and consider submitting it to a professional grading service for evaluation. Because with the proper authentication and the right combination of features, that humble cent might just turn out to be worth $55,000 or more, proving once again that the world of coin collecting is full of hidden treasures, and that sometimes the most valuable discoveries are found not in the vaults of history but in the smallest details of everyday objects. So keep hunting, keep learning, and remember, your next life-changing find could be just one penny away.